Hi again. We're going to try to make some pumpkin rum in time for Thanksgiving. Now, if you saw my other video, we used a gigantic jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, and I thought what we would do is this time use a sugar pumpkin. That way at Thanksgiving, when we get to taste both of those pumpkin rums, we'll see if there's any difference and see which one is better. If you saw my other video on making pumpkin rum with the jack-o'-lantern, you'll know what it is you have to have. We have our pumpkin itself, a sugar pumpkin. We have sugar. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a lid off, remove the insides with our spoons, pour the sugar in, top it off with paraffin or sealing wax, the same type of wax we use in canning, which you can get in either a supermarket or a drugstore. Put the lid back on, wax it over again, and let it sit for 30 days. Okay, so you ready? All right. Start out with, I'm using a boning knife because it's a little easier to handle than the chef's knife I used before. But be careful not to cause any damage to yourself. And we're going to create just a little lid. And I'm going to use try to make a small lid. I think that should do it, and it does. Now before I take it off, I'm going to mark it with a pen so that I can put it on very quickly and it's in exactly the same place. So I'll put a line there and I'll put a line there. Okay, so what do we got? Okay, so we're going to take all this stuff out. And by the way, you could, if you'd like, salt and bake the seeds and use those as a nice snack. So, let's see. Here we go. Be careful not to destroy the sides of it, because when you put it back, you don't want it to be damaged to the point where you have a hole in there. All right? So there's that. We have our lines lining up. Yeah, in fact, what I'm going to do is put two lines so I can do it even faster. Two lines on one side, one line on the other, so I know. Okay, so there's the lid. Scraped clean. And I'm going to use the spoon to scrape out the inside here. Actually, I have a ice cream scoop too, which is just as good. It might be a little better when you're having a smaller pumpkin. The jack-o'-lantern pumpkin was so huge, to be honest with you, it felt a little woody, and I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. But I'll tell you, after seeing it, it's been a week now, after seeing it start to age with all the sugar in it, it's gotten softer and softer and almost like it was imploding, and we had to, there we go, we had to put some more wax around the seal. And this time we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to do it the same way you would do it if you were canning anything, tomatoes, peaches, whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to pour the wax right onto the top of the sugar and the lid and hope that the wax, when it cools, will form a solid barrier and also act as an adhesive to keep the lid on. But first, we're going to get rid of all this string and seeds and stuff that's in here. All right, it's almost ready. Make sure you get the stuff around the top part of the lid opening. Now, I think I had mentioned in the other video. This is an old Prohibition era recipe, and it's not really a rum in the sense that you get sugar cane, and if you lived down in the islands and created some real rum, they called it rum, but in essence, as the sugar ages inside and the pumpkin starts to age as well, the sugar turns to alcohol. It creates a clear liquid which you then filter and drink. There were one of the 3 legitimate ways to get something to drink during Prohibition. The other 2 ways were if you got a prescription from a doctor, and the 3rd way was if you used alcohol in a religious ceremony. As it turns out, I have a friend who did some work on a drugstore, and he found this. It's a duplicate prescription for alcohol, and it's from a drugstore in Boston, Tremont Street in Boston. They had to keep a copy. It's almost as if they had carbon paper, and they used the top one and kept the carbon for their records. And when my friend finished working on this drugstore, there was a pile of those lying around, and he got permission to take a bunch, and he gave me one as a little souvenir. Alright, so there we have our pumpkin all carved out, ready with our lid. Excellent. Now you can see there's nothing in there now. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take some of the wax, and it looks like this. I'm using something called Gulf wax, G-U-L-F wax. We have, this is what the paraffin wax looks like. It's a little block. So, all right. So we're going to melt this down in an old pan, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Well, the wax is melted, and we're going to take our sugar, just pour it right into the cavity of the pumpkin. Whoa! Whoa! And tap it down a little bit, make sure it gets all the way in there. And then I'm going to pour a wax seal around it. And last time I did that, I used just a brush to just paint it on. But tonight, I'm just going to pour it on. Let's see. Have my lid ready. Oh, whoa, whoa. And it goes all over. There we go. You're right about a mess. It is a little messy, but once it dries, it'll be a solid. So I'm just going to take a moment and try to absorb some of the wax that's spilt over. That's one good thing about this is the wax, it's on there, solidifies, and you can just scrape it off. Now I'm going to finish it off with this little brush, wax around the seal to make sure that no air gets in there. This opaque, goes from clear to opaque, and we'll just layer it up, and that should prevent air getting inside there and rotting it too much. Okay, that's it. So what will happen, we'll leave that in there for 30 days, and just before Thanksgiving we're going to open it up, strain it out, and taste it. And by the way, I guess we'll see you at the tasting time. All right?